Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. God bless you. Um, my name is Pastor Yemi Omogboyega. Let's just talk briefly about the happenings in the Wigwe's family, and I can just title it Wigwe's Family Saga. Is a conflict of cultures. Conflict of cultures. First of all, I thank God for the life of Wigwe. Brief, not too brief, but organized. In fact, what is happening now has portrayed or has revealed Wigwe's characteristic as a very organized, as a very a man who knows what he wants while alive and even after his death. During my law school days, I used to remember, I remember what our Director General taught us when taking us on this will matter. He always used himself, our Director General then, Papa, I think Kayode Jegede. Elders are elders, and elders' words have in-depth. Baba Kayode Jegede always begins his lecture with, I cannot allow somebody that does not okay, let me put it this way. I may not be able to quote him verbatim, but the meaning is this. It is better you make your will. Let your will speak for you after you must have left this world. Otherwise, one idiot will just come from somewhere and begin to struggle with your children over your estate. I think that's the simplest way I can put it. Said, me, I cannot look on for that to happen to me. That is why I commend late Wigwe for what he did. He did not leave any ambiguity in any aspect of his life. As a Christian, he distinguished himself as a lover of God. And forget about human errors, whatever it is. One thing, the first point I brought about from this development is the fact that Wigwe's source of wealth has been revealed, at least partially, that his wealth did not come directly from his hustles alone. This is a man who had inherited billions from his late brother. So many of us, or all of us, who have been asking, how did he make his money? Where will he get the money to be funding the church? How did he do it? How would he do this, that? How will he do that? No. I think even that indicator alone is enough for us to say that this man may not be fraudulent, but that destiny just favors him. He had billions worth of estate inheritance from his late brother. that's enough for him to start off in life and become greater. And he then added his own hustles to it. So, for those who may be skeptical, or those of us who are always questioning the sources of somebody's wealth, this argument within the family has brought about that. So one can never conclude that Wigwe's wealth or sources of wealth is shady, because a lot of insinuations have been made that okay, he was doing foreign exchange this, he was doing that. You see, even the most notorious offender might be an angel in certain situations, but because he has been notorious, people will always conclude that he's a criminal or a notorious person, whereas it may not be so. So nobody, no third party can tell the history, the perfect history of a person except that person himself. That is why I always prefer autobiography. Write your own history yourself, so that everything about you, as much as it's humanly possible, even though people will still misinterpret them, you have stated it. It's like writing a will. What you say about yourself is what you know yourself to be, because you experienced, you gathered such experiences that you put down. So that is that about that. So I commend Wigwe and those who have been questioning the source of his wealth. I think by now, if they are reasonable and sensible, that is why the Bible says do not judge anybody, because you don't know the totality of that person. The person you think is a criminal might be an angel, might be a saint. So that is one thing that on social media we should learn to do. Never jump to conclusion on anything, on any matter, on anybody. Number two, like I said, this development within the family will help our courts to put paid to what has been unclear to our people. The conflict of cultures or traditions. The English tradition is different from the African tradition or culture. In African culture, let's take marriage for instance. A man is allowed to have many wives. But in English culture, monogamy, especially when you do court marriage, I don't want to say church, because church marriage has no effect. To say because you married in the church, then you have been, you are bound by, you cannot marry another wife. It's not true. The only one that is valid is the issue that if you marry, whether you marry in the church or you marry traditionally, if you proceed to legal marriage, that is court marriage, registry, to, can I put it this way, to remarry, that is the truth, that is what it is, to remarry. For instance, I married my wife traditionally. We did not do registry or court marriage until even only God knows how many years. And even by the time we go for registry, it was my first son that signed as my father. because he was of age. He was matured to do so. You see, my marriage was traditional until that very moment that I went to the registry to legalize it. It's not as if traditional marriage is not legal, it is legal too. But the terms and conditions under each culture differs. For instance, the moment I put myself under the court registry marriage, I have removed myself from the tradition. I have made myself an Englishman. That I prefer that one. It was my choice. So, if I die, for instance, my wife is a legal wife. If I marry another wife after that court registry, I've committed it's an adultery, and my wife can take me to court and she will win, because I cannot marry another woman. The moment I marry I cannot marry another woman legally, because I'm going polygamous now, which is not allowed according to the court registry. That's why they will tell you. You know it, that you cannot legally marry to another woman. If, for instance, for any reason, I impregnate another woman, I can claim my children from that woman. But my legal wife, that's recognized by law, is the one that I did court registry with. And if my wife decides to, if once I don't marry those women, no problem. I can collect my children, acknowledge my children, and claim them. Of course, subject to the support of my wife anyway. But that does not deprive those children of my biological relationship with them. So I can claim them, but I cannot marry their mothers legally. If I do that, my wife can sue me. And it's a serious offense, because I have removed myself under polygamy. Whereas, if I had married traditionally, no court registry, no church. Church has no relevance at all. I know pastors will be angry now. Church has no relevance. Marriage is between parents and children. What I mean is that marriage is between two families, traditionally. If tomorrow if I marry traditionally, I can go to another family tomorrow and marry. I can marry as many wives as I want. They will still all be legal. And that leads us to what is happening here in case of inheritance. Wigwe had removed himself from traditional setting by writing a will. If you write a will, it means you died tested. Will, you tell them how your properties, your estate, you see that it is estate, anything that you own, how you wish them to be disposed. It is your wishes, and your wishes must be respected. That is the rule of law, the rule of the game in English setting. The moment Wigwe left the traditional setting and got himself a will, and that will is valid, and he has appointed an executor by himself, that must be respected. And there is no admixture of traditional and English cultures here or traditions here. No. If you are English, you are English. Um, if you are traditional, you are traditional. And the laws guiding each of them will be applied when you died. So in this case, Wigwe has taken himself out of our African culture. They, our African culture also have a way of devolving their own will, of managing the estate of the dead. Now, if you died without a will, that is one they call um, dying intestate, which means you did not leave a will. You did not tell anybody how you want your properties to be managed. So, you can appoint an administrator, or if you died and there is an entitlement that is due you from anywhere, and your children want to claim, they will tell them who is your administrator. If not, you pay to the government to appoint an administrator. If not, also, you can just share whatever you have according to the culture. Nobody will challenge that, because cultural settings do have their ways of, managing the estate of the dead. The two of them cannot conflict. You cannot be under the English and at the same time under the traditional law. No, you have your will written. That's how you want your thing to be. And now, if you look at what is happening now, had it been that Wigwe did not have a will, the case of his father against the grandchild would have been justified. But alas, Wigwe has a will, and that will must be respected. That is on how to manage it. He has appointed a lawyer who will execute it, and Papa and the others are coming up to say, let us appoint administrator. You cannot alter the will of somebody, no matter how close you are. It is his will. No matter what your justification is. I know from the analysis I saw from somebody, he was saying maybe, which is a good thinking anyway, that maybe because that girl is a girl, the child is a girl, that child will marry into another family, and all the wealth will go to that family. We leave the Wigwe's family and go to the family to which the daughter is married. It's a logical reasoning. Or that that Wigwe inherited his late brother's properties and estate and whatever, that boosted his whatever, and then if this woman also goes, she will go with all those things, and the family wants to retain, the Wigwe family wants to retain that wealth inside that family. It's unfortunate. But the court has already signaled. Honestly speaking, if you ask me, I don't think Papa and all the people suing in this matter will win this case. So the court of first instance has shed the light. Going to appeal court, I don't expect things to change. Going to Supreme Court, I don't expect things to change. There is no emotion in matters of the law. Now, if you look at it again morally, you say, oh, how can only one child and then carry and at the detriment of the family? No, that is the will of the testator. That is what he wants. And he would not have contemplated that his son, because that is where the whole thing would have remained in the Wigwe's family. He would not have wished himself what happened to him, that his only son would die with him. But that is what our people are thinking. The Lord does not look at it that way. I think it is incumbent upon us also to, when we are writing our will, if we ever write anyway, to take note of this, that nobody prays for it, but something like this could happen. Therefore, make provision as to how your estate will be managed. Maybe you want to include members of your family to be part of the administrator, and so on and so forth. We are talking of management. We are not talking of the content of the will now. If you want anybody other than your lawyer alone, if you want to constitute a team that will execute the will, you better include them because of situations like this. Wigwe would not have thought that if he died, that his wealth, the entire wealth inherited and the one he labored for, would go just to the family of the surviving daughter. Nobody wishes it, because he knew he had a son. That son, just like him too, would have inherited his own estate. And then, in conjunction with the sisters. So all this argument about, this is how it is. The law does not distinguish between female and male. It is the African tradition that distinguishes. The reasoning of the Africans, yes, very, very reasonable, very, very morally correct, sound. But the English version is blunt. A child is a child, and that's also fair enough. This is where God is greater than us. The interplay of these interfaces, we need to think deeply about them. If you are the type that is saying that, okay, your will should remain in your family, you want your family members to be part and parcel of the estate and the managers of the estate, maybe for purpose of maybe your lawyer could be fraudulent, just as the people are thinking now, that maybe the lawyer and the other people that are helping to manage may not be transparent enough. Well, you better state that by including somebody whom you trusted in your family to be part and parcel of the administrator of the estate. If not, this is what will happen. So we can't have anything outside what is happening now. There is no how much you think, there will be an exception. Wigwe did not expect that he and his only son would die. Neither did he expect that he, his wife, and his son will perish the same day. So what he did so far is a neat job under normal circumstances. But what happened now is abnormal. So that is why that abnormality will carry its own good side and bad side. To African tradition now, that is just unfair for that thing to go to the woman. But to the English side, it is just normal. It is fair enough. But to the African side, it is unfair. To the family where Wigwe comes from, it's like carrying the entire wealth that is bearing the name of Wigwe's to another person. Maybe the person will even be an Hausa or Yoruba man, that you will not even directly be able to trace his wealth to, Wigwe's wealth to. That's all. It's unfortunate. So the only thing is, while you are alive, think twice on whatever you do. Wigwe's case is enough for us to be able to understand what I'm saying now. That if you want, maybe you don't, you look at it by chance. An administrator or executor of your will may or might want to do anything. The law is there to check them anyway. It's just that you enter into legal battles to enforce that will. Then the second aspect of it, what actually are the contents of this will? Nobody is talking about that. The will has not been opened to know what is apportioned to who. Wigwe might have in the body of the will apportioned certain parts of his wealth to his family. That too must be respected. And I don't think an African man that is so cultured will not do something to members of his family in case he died. He will not include such a thing. He might have done that. We don't know that yet. It is the management who executes is what we are talking about now. And you cannot, like I said, there cannot be an admixture of traditional and English culture in matters of this nature. So, since Wigwe has gone ahead to write his will, he's bound by that will, and everybody is bound. That's what he wanted. He has removed himself from the purview of traditional management of estate of the testator. So we should not, what the papa and others are trying to do is to say, okay, let's just take it that he died intestate, which is not so. You cannot deny a will that is validly made. You cannot. So it is just a lesson for us. I'm enlightening us at my own level, so that those of you who are at the layman's level will understand how these things work. It is to tell you God is greater than anybody. You may say this is what you will. It may turn out not to favor whom you even want it to favor, like the son of Wigwe now, or Wigwe's family. But does it mean that the daughter too is not a child? English has addressed us. The will has addressed that. A child is a child, whether it's a male or female, doesn't matter what happens. And that is also fundamental. So try to envisage that the unexpected can happen. So do your will and be clear about it. Unfortunately now, if it were to be that the man died intestate, you see that there will still be family struggle over his property or over his estate. I think the error that Baba made is that you might not think it's an error. If it's a Yoruba person, by our culture, you cannot put the father as a member of administrator, because nobody prays for the death of his son. You cannot add the father. If he had chosen some other people like he trusted to say, okay, let's to ensure transparency of the implementation of what my son willed, you can put somebody else. Particularly, it could be an elder that is older than Wigwe, but he will not be himself. So that's the only thing that I notice. It is everything that is happening is pointing to the fact that life is, there's no straight-jacketed principle in life that is not amenable to exception. This case of Wigwe now is a new exception, and it will set another precedent in the administration of the will of a testator. It may end up being fairly, it will please one person, it will displease another. That's just it. I will now say that's just what God wills. That is what God wills. Maybe it's just God that is fundamentally changing something somewhere. So don't discriminate against your female children. Don't use one to think that one is above the other. Life, nobody can predict. Please learn and take in something. This is a little I can chip in for now. God bless you. May we all not die prematurely, but we should be careful as much as possible to make our ways clear by writing a will. If you don't write a will, and you have to be talking of Baba Siku, which we call administrator here, you know that it has its own flaws too. I would rather go by the method of my Baba Kayode Jegede, who said, I would rather state how I want my estate to be managed than for somebody else to jump in and do things that I would not have willed for my children. I would not want anybody to come and be struggling properties with my children. I will state how I want my estate to be managed after I exited this world. God bless you. Have a very wonderful. Please subscribe to this channel. You know that people need knowledge. They need all these things to be able to learn and make their life while alive, to make their way straight, just like Wigwe. Number 2, to let their administrators or executors know how they want their estate to be managed. Subscribe. I need more of a subscription now. And then please press the notification button so that I get to know when we upload new videos. Like our videos, pass your comments. I want to learn too. God bless you. Life is not emotional. What will be, will be. That is what has happened to Wigwe. But I'm happy for him. He lived as much as is humanly possible. He lived a life of decency. He lived a life of discipline. He lived a life that is organized. Anybody can die anyhow. He has died the way he died. But we need to learn something from him. Bye.